if the rules are absolute. It still applies to this second game. Then what's written on the mask is the way to break it. But how? And when does the residual difference occur? The clock doesn't stop for a moment. Could it be 1:15? Flag turned his head to look at the table in the desktop. It's now 1.5 minutes. What if 1.1 grams is the time for the harpoon to fire? There are only less than 10 minutes left. Turn your head 100 times in the direction of your hometown. There are 9 people here with different hometowns. Besides, 100 laps is not a small amount. If they are thinking in the wrong direction, they could easily have wasted those 10 minutes. But there was nothing else in the room that could rotate except for himself. Qixie's eyes stopped at the center of the table. He reached out and gently touched the center of the table. But he found that he was fixed to the table and couldn't move a bit. Can't move the center? Is it a chair? Qixie looked down at the chair underneath him. It was an old, moldy-smelling, plain Italian chair. It was just sitting there on the floor. There was no mechanism. That only leaves. He looked down at the round table in the center of the room and realized that there was something strange about it. This table could not be called a round table, because it seems to be a polygon. Only the angle of the number of sides gives the first impression of a circle. He reached out and turned the table. Sure enough, there was a faint chain sound coming from inside the table. He could only turn the table a few centimeters with a lot of force. This figure could not be accomplished by just 2 or 3 people. 9 people in the room had to work together to turn the table. It's only possible to get a first-line upgrade. Lin Qin keenly caught Qi's movements, so she called out to stop the crowd. Everyone went to the table to have a look. They realized that the table could really turn. Xiao Jiajin nodded and said, "I'm sure you're a real liar. I'm sure you're a real liar. Let's turn this table around once. Should be able to open the invisible door." Qi Man took another look at the missing. Although time is short. But now the question becomes purer. 100 turns in the direction of home. There are only 2 answers. To the left or to the right. But everyone's hometowns are located east, south, west, and north. How do you know if you're going left or right? You already know when the harpoon will be fired? Please ask the 5 mouths and noses. It says the clock is ticking and it'll be another 1:15. The Joe's face is all over the place. That's less than 10 minutes. How can we start so soon? Dr. Cho moved the body on the table to the side. He also sat down slowly. He tested the weight of the table with his hands. But we only get 1 chance. A heavy table like this can be turned 100 times. What if we turn it the wrong way? That's only a 50% chance of survival. If we don't move, we're still dead. There's still a 50% chance of survival. We have to hurry, don't we? He used all his strength to turn the table to the left. Although he looks thin and weak, but he's very strong. He turned the table halfway around by himself. What are you waiting for? I'll finish helping. Xiao Jiajian was thick to the crowd. The rest of us knew that he had a point. They could only help him keep going. There's no right answer to reading the Bible. But the flag never moved. He doesn't know where to think. Left or right? Why does it matter where you're from? We're all Chinese, so it's east. Up north, down south, left west, right east. The answer is right. What about the people who live on the west side? In a moment, everyone in this room's hometown has something to do with the left turn in the spring and autumn period, and the answer is left. The answer is left. The answer is left. I wanted to block myself with 2 corpses. But if everyone else dies, when the next game comes along, what will happen? Now is not the time to give up on them. Grabbed a blank sheet of paper from the spinning tabletop, picked up his pen and stood up. He found an empty space and sat down, and began to scribble something. But his hand didn't stop moving. He had already turned the table a dozen times. If he hadn't introduced himself as a fraud, I thought he was a mathematician. Xiao Jiajin said to Tian Tian. Tian Tian was a bit dizzy from the spinning. She nodded perfunctorily. This time, Qixia did not list the number of countries. He just drew a rough map of the country on a piece of paper. Ka Hyang? His mind was racing. Suddenly thought of something. If the organizer's magical powers are so vast, you can find people with similar experiences in so many provinces. Is that province also a key point? He looked back at the people who were spinning the table and said seriously, "Did any of you lie about the fragrance?" After all, hometowns are about accents and expressions. It's easy to lie. Now please take turns to tell me your hometowns again. He drew a black dot in Inner Mongolia. Councillor Zhong Chenza coldly said Guangdong. Xiao Jiajin said. Councillor Lin Qin said. Dr. Zhao said. The flag marked the hometowns of the people on the map one by one, and wrote their own Shandong province. At this moment all eyes are gathered on the writer Han Yima's body, because he never said where he came from the start. Are you from Guangxi or Taiwan? Han Yima was stunned. Time is running out. Answer me first. At this moment, there are only 2 victories left for Han Yima: Guangxi Province and Taiwan Province. If his answer is not one of these 2, then he'd be talking a big game. So he told the truth. The last province is also marked on the map. There are now 9 black dots on the sketch. He whispered. Chisholm ran quickly to the table and began to turn the table in the opposite direction. Although they were a bit nervous, they followed him and turned around. Dr. Zhao looked at the map and the 9 black dots on the table.